Hi, welcome to Reawakening Beauty. I'm your host, Shawna Patruno. I'm so excited to have you here. I love talking about all things skin-related, beauty-related, and mind-related. Here I empower you, mind, body, skin, and soul. I am so excited to have you here today. We are talking about something that is so important as we're transitioning into the winter season, and it is all things to kind of help you transition with your skin, even some things for your body and your mindset. So I'm here with the lovely Angie, and if you could just introduce yourself for our audience to tell them a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get the show started. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Angie Vlahovich, and I am a skincare entrepreneur. And thank you so much, Shawna, for having me on your show again. It's always a pleasure to be a guest here.
Yes, and I'm so excited because as we both love skincare, we know that in the winter months, that basically what happens is there's a huge transition for so many different reasons. And in this episode, we're going to kind of go through tools, vitamins, and rituals that will help you as you transition from maybe the summer season into the winter season if you live in like a colder climate. So first off, I was going to get into some tips that I do. So how I like to adjust my body is one of my favorite things is actually using a body brush. And the reason why I love using the body brush in the winter time is because in the winter, our skin tends to get a little bit more dry. And you'll notice that you get some flaking, your moisturizer doesn't sit the same way on your skin. But the benefits of actually using a dry brush are so amazing because it actually helps with exfoliation. It's a natural exfoliation. It allows your products to sink in better into the skin. So it also helps with circulation. So as it's like the winter months, we're not going outside. We're not doing strenuous exercise, like going for our runs and our jogs, detoxing the body. So it also helps with elimination of toxins as well. It has been known to also help with cellulite. I don't know how scientifically proven that is, but I've been using my body brush for, I would say, about 4 months now. And I do notice the quality of the skin around my knees has changed, the quality of the skin around just so many different areas. And my favorite benefit from my experience of using the body brush is first thing in the morning before I get into the shower. So you do this on dry skin, and I'm brushing towards like my heart. So I'll start with my legs and brush with short strokes towards my heart. But what it does is it boosts your energy because you're getting that blood flow and circulation going. So that's one of my favorite things that I like to use in the winter time. And I'm going to traject it right back to Angie so that she can kind of share something that she likes doing.
That's so interesting, Shawna. I've actually always wanted to try dry brushing, but I was never quite sure how to use that tool. And actually, one of my favorite tools is using a facial cleansing brush. And I discovered this tool in a boutique on Roncesvalles here in Toronto. At the time, I was actually looking for a dry body brush, but again, wasn't too sure how to use it. Then I saw this cute little face brush and thought it would be a great way to gently exfoliate my dry skin. And as you know, in the winter times here in Canada, as we transition from summer to fall to winter, it can get very dry. Like we are not moving as much. We're not as physically active, right? We're not getting as much sunlight. We're indoors with central heating, which can be very drying. So I experience a lot of dryness on my face in particular in the colder months. And I don't love using chemical or like very abrasive physical exfoliants. I find they can be a little bit irritating on sensitive skin. So using a facial cleansing brush is a great way to get both like a deeper clean and also get some of that exfoliation in the winter season that is so important here in Canada.
So it's so funny because I've actually never used a facial brush, but I use the body brush. So it's funny because we're like complementing each other. Yes. So I'm like, need to get on that bandwagon ASAP because I use the body one and I highly recommend it. But they are not all the same. So I would recommend when you're using it, look for a more natural fiber. And I would, even if you can test the bristle before you buy it, ask them, because there was one that I purchased from a very mainstream store. I hate throwing businesses under the bus, so I'm not going to say which one I did, but it was very, very abrasive on the skin. So if I find one of my favorites, I'll list it in there for you guys. So check out the show notes as well. Is there anything else that you wanted to kind of speak to as far as tools go, or anything else before I share another one that I like?
Well, I don't know if this would qualify as a tool as much as it is a technique, but one thing I love doing in the winter is facial steaming. And now I know they do sell these like facial steaming machines and tools that you can buy, but I've been doing it the old fashioned way for many, many years. I actually learned about facial steaming from my mom. And as a teenager, I had a combination of both acne and dry skin in the winter seasons. Many over-the-counter like acne medications at the time would, of course, make my skin much drier. Back then, too, we had like the whole oil-free products movement. So it was very hard to find something. Exactly, yes. It was so hard to find something that was actually hydrating for my skin. So my mom would get me to steam my face over a bowl of like piping hot water. She'd throw a towel over my head and make me steam my face for about 15 minutes to both like detoxify it from the acne and, you know, give it that extra hydration. And she would often add things like chamomile and other aromatic herbs that she would find in the cupboard to just make it more fragrant. And my skin would always feel so rejuvenated after. I really felt like it was a great way to get rid of those extra toxins, just to sweat it out. And my skin would also feel very hydrated after too. So facial steaming is something I love doing every winter. It's almost a way to bring the spa to your home. And, you know, again, like I mentioned, there are special tools, these machines that you can buy to do it, but you know, you can also do it the good old fashioned way with a bowl of hot water and a towel.
I love that. So I've never done that either. I mean, I used to work in a spa and I would do the facial steaming on the people with the actual tool, but I've never tried that. So I have a question for you. How hot should the water be for our guests? Like, are we getting it from the kettle? Is it like, how hot should it be? And how should you do it to avoid injury?
You know, it's so funny that you mentioned that, because my mom would do it straight from the kettle. And I remember I had to take breaks and open the towel and my face would be red and, you know, I'd be whining and complaining. And of course, like as a teenager, right? So I would say not directly from the kettle, you know, do what feels good, do what feels right. So it's nice and relaxing and you feel like your facial muscles are relaxing. But certainly if it feels like it's too hot or uncomfortable, you know, you can always lift the towel up, you know, bring in some fresh air to kind of cool things down. So you can play around with it. That's what I would recommend. Yeah.
And how far away should you be from the bowl? Like how many centimeters? Because I feel like people like don't know this, right? So they're probably like getting super close to it, and that's probably not advised.
Yeah, I wouldn't suggest getting too close. You don't want to burn the skin with the steam, like especially if if you are going directly from the kettle route, but just keeping like a 20 centimeter distance, something like that. You know, just like gently rolling your head forward with the towel over, but yeah, something like that. Again, just playing around, seeing what feels good.
Yes.
But it's definitely a nice little way to just detoxify, hydrate the skin in the winter.
I love that. So one of the tools that I wanted to talk about that's new to my arsenal, so I haven't been using it long enough to say this is like my end all be all, but it's a jade roller. So I have so many tools that I use, and me and Angie will be doing lots of these, but I've been using a little bit of a jade roller, and the reason why is because I'm a big fan of hot and cold, and I'll get into that as we go through this discussion. What I really liked about the jade roller is that it helps with circulation, but I can actually put it in my fridge. So it's giving my face like almost like a depuffing thing. So I tend to wake up with I honestly look puffy in the morning. I do. So it's not scientifically proven. Like there's a lot of studies that will discombobulate it and say it's not true. But for myself, I find the cooling effect on my skin helps wake me up, and it does also help me feel like not as puffy. And there are like a way to do it. I might put in the show notes how exactly to do it, or that might be a separate entity, but a jade roller is something that I've encompassed and I really, really have liked it. But again, it's not far along enough so I can say like I've noticed huge transitions, but the kind of the feel on my skin has been really helpful. And if you go to my blog on cryotherapy, you'll know why I'm such a proponent of cold therapy. So I'll link that in there as well for you guys. So that's something that I've been liking a little bit. And it's supposed to help with circulation, a few other things like that. But yeah, that's one of the tools that I've been using. I mean, I have a million tools that I use, but I'm going to keep it short for this one.
That's great, Shawna. I love that you put it in the fridge too. The idea of having something that's cooling, like I can already feel that on my face and how nice that would feel, especially in the morning when I'm a little bit extra puffy.
Yes. And like, I know that you work with a facial oil, so you can use that to help with techniques. And there's so many different things. Maybe one time we can do an episode of maybe how to use your tools and stuff like that. So that's kind of something that I've encompassed. And it also, in the winter, I find like your energy's low. Anything to give you more energy in the winter, because like we talked about, the sun's not in its highest peak, our circadian rhythm's a little bit lower. So anything that's going to give us this quick wins. So first thing in the morning, I don't leave it in the fridge the whole time. I put it in probably about 4 minutes before using it. So that's kind of what I've liked. And then right around the eyes, if you notice that you're puffy, it just wakes you up. Like it's really a nice way to wake up. So then we're going to kind of go into why this is kind of important. We kind of jumped right in there. So the reasons why doing a lot of these things are important for us as the winter changes. We've mentioned a little bit of less sun. Also, like the air quality in your home can change because we're not getting those windows opening and closing. What would you say reasons why we want to be more kind of aware to change our skincare in the winter?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course, the weather outside is changing, but our lifestyle is also changing too in the winters. As I mentioned, we're not moving around as much. We're not perspiring as much because we're wearing warm clothes. We're not as physically active. And perspiration and sweating is such an important way to, reduce toxins. It's a natural detoxification system, right?
Yep.
So these lifestyle and, weather changes have a real impact on both our skin and our health. So it's only natural that we would change some of our skincare routines and self-care routines accordingly.
So you did mention you're not sweating as much, so that I'm going to go straight into the rituals, because I've been talking a little bit about hot and cold, and you said it right there. You're not sweating as much. So what I like to do is a hot and cold shower. Now, I was advised this from my naturopathic doctor. I do a lot of natural healing modalities, very much into them. So I was having a really hard time with like some hormonal changes, and I wasn't excreting toxins. My body doesn't naturally sweat. So this is great for the winter time, because I naturally found it was hard for me to sweat. So she's like, okay, we got to kind of wake up your system. So what I would do is I would get in the shower after dry brushing. So again, going back to that, and I would go and I would take a shower. I would wash my body with probably warm water. And then at the very end of my shower, what I would do, I would take it and I would go a little bit hotter, not burning hot. You don't want to burn the skin, but I would go hot for about 30 seconds and then cold. And I'm talking blistering cold. 30 seconds. And I would do that for about 2 minutes. And sometimes I can get up to 5 minutes doing that. Now, what that does is that actually helps a lot with circulation. It wakes up your system. It does a ton of other things. It actually helps with the quality of your skin, and it will give you massive energy before you even need a coffee. So it also has been known to help with mood. So again, going back to that cold therapy, we're losing a lot of the sunlight and a lot of people get seasonal depression. So that actually boosts mood a little bit with the hot and cold therapy. Again, I'm not a doctor or anything, that this has just been my experience and working with a naturopathic doctor and what I was told and advised to do. So I've noticed huge benefits from it, and there's like more science behind it, and you can definitely look that stuff up, but that's been imperative to me. Angie, is there anything that you've really liked doing during the winter for a ritual?
I recently started doing hot and cold showers myself, mostly after exercise. And this is something my partner has got me into. And he's been doing it for years. He's very much into the health and fitness scene. And so I've definitely heard from him the physical benefits of doing hot and cold showers. Like you mentioned, the hot shower portion enhances blood flow. That can help with stiff joints, tired muscles. And then the cold shower component can really help with, reducing muscle inflammation after working out and numbing the pain. My personal experience, though, is that I find the cold shower portion really invigorating. Like, I always feel so triumphant after I do it. It puts me in such a good mood. Like, it makes me feel more alive, more passionate, more able to take on the world. And like, as you mentioned, the winter seasons can really affect our mood and make us feel down. So we almost have to find these creative ways to boost our energy, to boost our mood during the winter months. And it seems almost crazy to have a cold shower in the winter when it's already so cold. But in my experience, it has been so incredible. And again, like, I always feel like I can take on the world after I do it. So there's definitely something there.
Funny part is when you get out of having a really hot and cold shower, it actually feels warmer in the air. So it's like, it invigorates you. So then you get out and you're like, oh, this is nicer. Have you ever been in the shower and you get out and you take this really warm one and you come out and it's freezing? It's like, that's not enjoyable. So it's like, it's like a reverse osmosis effect.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to continue on with mood, another tool or ritual that I've used for the last few winters is the sad lamp.
Oh, okay.
And it is a physical lamp. It emits a spectrum of light that simulates sunlight. And apparently it does help release serotonin in your brain. Serotonin is known as the feel-good hormone. So studies do show that using this kind of light therapy during periods when daylight hours are short can help adjust your circadian rhythm, which is the body's process for regulating your sleep-wake cycle. So again, in my personal experience, I found it very helpful, especially using first thing in the morning, like when you're getting up and it's still dark outside, right? It's hard to feel awake even after a shower and a cup of coffee, and it's still dark. So I find putting it on and just kind of having it out in the open as I'm getting up slowly has really made a difference.
I love that. That's so amazing. I never used the sad lamp, but I've heard people have swore by it. So I think it's so imperative. And a lot of people do get seasonal depression. And I think it's something that we need to talk more about. So if we have these tools, we're putting tools in your toolbox that can help you, and try it out and see if this benefits you. I'm going to actually, because I think it kind of links over, vitamins. I'm going to actually talk about the vitamins that I take because it kind of talks about mood as well. A really big one that I recommend for people who are vegan, and as well as people who are transitioning into the winter months with stress, a vitamin B complex. And not all vitamins are the same. I would recommend getting a food grade vitamin and a vegan source one because they are definitely higher quality. As someone who's vegan and obviously who is more prone to low energy for numerous different reasons, that B complex, I noticed it made me, it made me less of a bitch in the wintertime. And I honestly am someone who struggles a lot with anxiety. And the vitamin Bs, I've noticed, allows me to take that edge off. I don't know if people experience that fight or flight. You get a text message and you're like, I need to respond. I feel like this particular thing almost gives me a little bit of that take a breath, Shawna, and we should be taking more breaths. And that's something I really want you to do is take a breath. But I would equate this vitamin for myself. I mean, always talk to your doctor if you're having other issues. But this is just something that really works for me. And look at your blood work and all of that great stuff as well. But vitamin B in the wintertime is something that I highly recommend for stress. But if you're on medication, obviously you talk to your doctor. The other thing that I highly, 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 highly recommend, I cannot state this enough, is a great form of vitamin D. Now, I had been experimenting with different vitamin Ds. I don't really like the pill form. I take one that is a spray form, and it's food grade again. I always go with those food grade supplements and vegan. This one here, what I really noticed is because your skin gets dry in the wintertime, we're not getting the vitamin D from the sun. This also will help with mood, but it also helps with dry skin. Have no idea how it helps with dry skin. I don't know exactly why it does, but I noticed I kept trying all these facial oils, all these products, and I noticed when I took the vitamin D, it helps with my skin and it helps with my mood. And then the third I take is like an energy supplement that has chromium in it, and it has vitamin B12. And those are like my arsenal for the winter time. But that's just what I use for myself, but I would highly recommend those.
I love that, Shawna. I mean, I've been using liquid vitamin D for a couple years now instead of the pill form. And that was recommended to me by my naturopathic doctor. And it does really make such a difference in the winter.
It's huge. I literally had this flaky skin, and also just to be, I'm just transparent, like with your bowel movements and everything. It really works for so many different things. I could have like a list of things that I noticed that improved when I started taking vitamin D. My sleep improved, my skin improved, so many things improved. And also I did notice a little bit of my mood improving as well. So
yeah, that's so important.
Now, I know you have some vitamins that you use as well. What are they, Andrea?
So my vitamins aren't so much for energy in the winter. I've always been fascinated at not just what we can put on our skin, but what we can put in our bodies to just slow down the aging process. One supplement that I've been taking for many years now is curcumin. Curcumin is a plant chemical found in turmeric. It was actually recommended to me by my naturopathic doctor many years ago when I had arthritis in my joints. I was experiencing a lot of pain, and the curcumin was extremely effective at treating my pain. But I also noticed that it reduced a lot of inflammation in my face. And I happen to have a bit of like a mild case of rosacea. And for the listeners who aren't as familiar with rosacea, it is a skin condition that can cause a lot of blushing, flushing, redness. And I was told by many medical professionals that there wasn't much I could do about it. My mom has rosacea too, and there is a genetic component to it. So I was pleasantly surprised when I started noticing those changes in my skin after taking curcumin. My face started looking less red, less puffy. And after doing further research, I found that there are some studies showing the benefits of curcumin for the skin, and specifically with reducing inflammation in the skin.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So that's something I would definitely look into if that interests you. The second supplement I recently started taking, and I'm really excited about it. So it's called astragalus. It's a little bit hard to pronounce. I heard about it. I heard about this herb and its anti-aging properties in a book called The Energy Formula by Shawn Wells, who is a famous biohacker. Now, astragalus, herb used in Chinese medicine. It's been used for thousands of years, and clinical research is now coming out showing that it may help with lifespan extension, anti-vascular aging, and anti-brain aging. Ooh. So I'm really excited about this because there's a lot of supplements that can help reduce the appearance of aging, but to have something that may actually slow down the aging process, I think is very fascinating. And I think we're going to start hearing more about this herb in the coming years. So again, I only recently started taking it. I haven't seen the full effect, but if lifespan extension is something that interests you, I would definitely recommend looking into this.
Yeah, I think after we get off this call is send me the link, man. I'm going to start taking it too. And then we can kind of do an update and like how we look and feel. Maybe like we'll do like a repeat episode to kind of see how everything's working.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on today. Like, I think this was such an imperative topic that people don't really talk about. We had a longer list, so I think we're probably going to have to make more time. Is there anything else you wanted to cover before we wrap up?
I think these are all great. I think we've covered so much today and a lot of great tips for anyone, who lives in a place in the world that has, the 4 distinct seasons. And again, going into winter, there's so many things that we have to do to adjust our routine, in order to feel good in our bodies and with our skin too.
I am so thankful for you being here, sharing your wisdom. And there's some things that I learned today that I'm going to start doing. I'm getting a facial brush and I'm getting this astragalus. I always said it right. So thank you so much for everyone listening. And where can they find you? Well, I'll put everything in the show notes, but where can they find you?
So they can find me on Instagram at organic_Angie. You can also check out my brand page on Instagram called Amaya Beauty. I sell a natural plant-based facial oil that is an antioxidant booster and natural anti-agent.
Yes, thank you so much. And you guys can find me on most places as Reawakening Beauty or Shawna Patruno. And I'll always be putting out content that is connecting mind, body, skin, and soul. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a beautiful day. Thank you so much for listening to the latest episode of Reawakening Beauty. Subscribe to the podcast to hear more inspirational stories and tips related to all things mind, beauty, skin, and soul. I also encourage you to check out the show notes for additional information about my guest, the topics discussed during the episode, and of course, more information about me, your host, Shawna Patruno. If you want to be a guest on the show or just want to reach out and say hi, you can reach me on Instagram, LinkedIn, or email. All these details can be found in my show notes. Thank you so much for listening and have an amazing day.